Payday always brings a sense of freedom, but it's also the exact moment when it feels hardest to figure out how to manage your money the right way. That's why today, I'm going to give you a detailed, step-by-step breakdown of 5 key financial moves you should make as soon as your paycheck hits your account. Step 1. Define your financial base. The very first and most important step is to understand your financial base, the absolute minimum you need to survive. When it comes to personal finance, many people immediately think, this is complicated, time-consuming, and boring. But it's exactly this mindset that leads most people into financial traps. It's no coincidence that 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It's all because of one common mistake that psychologists call mental accounting. Simply put, this is when people allocate money in their heads instead of on paper or in a spreadsheet. For example, let's say you get a tax refund in May. In your mind, that money automatically becomes a bonus or a gift. Your mood shifts and the spending begins. A new PlayStation, a big screen TV, or something completely unnecessary but tempting. The problem is, this money is no different from your regular paycheck. You simply overpaid your taxes, and the government is giving you back what was yours all along. The good news is that this is very easy to fix. All you need to do is open a spreadsheet and honestly list every single monthly expense. Rent, internet, groceries, even that Hawaiian pizza, and small things like dental floss. Absolutely everything. When I put these numbers into Google Sheets, it became clear how much money I actually needed to live comfortably each month. Since I'm self-employed and my income fluctuates, knowing this number was critical. Next comes the less pleasant but necessary part, cutting out all non-essential expenses. Yes, this includes Netflix, random subscriptions, small services, and things you don't even remember signing up for. And yes, this is usually where a newsletter ad would pop up, but that's not the point. After a brief but painful moment of self-reflection, you should be left with only the truly essential categories: housing, rent, or mortgage. Ideally, this shouldn't exceed 30% of your income. Groceries and food, roughly 10% of your income. Insurance and utilities, internet, cell phone, electricity, another 10%. The total of these expenses is your financial base, the minimum amount you need every month to live peacefully without just surviving. The best rule of thumb is to keep this base below 50% of your total income. If your number is higher, it's time to reevaluate your spending and find cheaper alternatives. Do you really need an apartment with an indoor pool? Or a satellite phone plan? And maybe you can survive without those pasture-raised organic avocados? When you clearly understand your financial base, you're laying a solid foundation for every step that follows. Step 2. Build an emergency fund. Try to imagine this for a moment. You always have an amount in your account that can cover 6 months of your living expenses. The mere fact that this money exists gives you a sense of peace and confidence. You know that an illness, job loss, or a serious injury won't ruin your life. For this reason, an emergency fund isn't just nice to have. It's a vital element of financial stability. There's a simple rule that perfectly explains why you need it. It's called Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it eventually will. Instead of calling your parents in a moment of crisis or reaching for your credit card and piling up debt again, you simply draw money from your financial cushion. The statistics here are very telling. 56% of Americans cannot cover an unexpected $1,000 expense, and 22% have no emergency savings at all. The general, time-tested rule is this: your emergency fund should cover 6 months of your financial base. If you need $3,000 a month to live comfortably, then your optimal reserve size is $18,000. It's crucial to understand that this money has a very specific purpose. An emergency fund is not a party budget, not vacation money, and definitely not a way to satisfy a sudden craving for Hawaiian pizza. These funds are used only when the situation is truly critical. When your house is flooded. When you're stranded far from civilization with no other options. When life is literally falling apart. That is exactly what an emergency fund is for. Once this reserve is fully funded, don't hesitate. Move on to the next step. Step 3. Tackle your debt. The next stage is a topic most people prefer to ignore, but it's impossible to move forward without it. We're talking about debt. Today, 77% of American adults carry some form of debt, and we've become so used to it that we view it as completely normal. Often, this debt isn't born out of necessity, but from trying to live beyond our means. Status symbol, designer clothes, brand new showroom furniture instead of secondhand options, and impulsive buys we could have easily lived without. The most dangerous thing about debt is that it slowly but surely eats away at your income. When hundreds of dollars go toward credit cards, auto loans, and other payables every month, you simply have no room left for saving or investing. The problem isn't your iced latte or avocado toast. True savings start when you get rid of high-interest debt, because that's what costs you thousands of dollars in interest and fees. Here's a quick example. Suppose you have a $6,500 balance on a credit card with a 19.5% APR. If you only pay the minimum of $130 a month, it will take about 8 years to pay it off completely. You will pay over $6,000 extra just in interest. The logical question is, how do you get rid of this debt as fast as possible? There are 2 proven strategies that actually work. 1. The debt avalanche method. The concept is simple. You start with the debts that have the highest interest rates. This usually means credit cards, payday loans, or high-interest auto loans, anything with a rate of 10% or higher. You pay off the most expensive debt first, then move to the next. Mathematically, this is the fastest and cheapest way to become debt-free. 2. The debt snowball method. This approach is less optimal on paper but very powerful from a psychological standpoint. Here, you ignore interest rates and start with the smallest balances first. Small wins happen faster, your motivation builds, and it becomes much easier not to quit halfway through. When I got serious about my own finances, I put all my debts into a Google Sheet. I listed every loan, the remaining balance, and the corresponding interest rate. I manually entered every payment into the sheet, watching the balance drop. Every few days, I would visualize the moment all those numbers would hit zero, and that feeling is what kept me pushing forward. Once your high-interest debt is gone, you'll feel like your budget finally has room to breathe. But before you go out and spend that extra cash, it's vital to move on to the next financial priority. Step 4. Start investing the right way. For most people, the word investing immediately brings to mind chaotic charts, day trading, and people screaming on a stock exchange floor. But if you look past the Hollywood imagery of the Wolf of Wall Street, you'll see the truth. Investing doesn't have to be complicated, stressful, or exhausting. In fact, the basic rules of investing are quite simple. If you master them and stick to them over the long term, they can literally generate millions over your lifetime. There's a reason Albert Einstein called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. As the saying goes, those who understand it, earn it. Those who don't, pay it. The power of compound interest is exactly why you should have started investing yesterday rather than putting it off. Historically, the stock market yields an average return of about 10% annually. This means that without any active effort on your part, your capital doubles roughly every 10 years. For example, If you invest $6,000 every year from age 25 to 65 at that 10% rate, you'll end up with over $2.7 million. Now, look at the alternative. If you keep that same money under the mattress, after 40 years, you'd only have $240,000. The difference between these two scenarios is massive. For many, it represents a completely different quality of life. At this point, authors usually plug a free starter guide to investing. However, a logical question arises. Which investment account should you start with? A standard brokerage account, a 401k, an IRA, or an HSA? The order of operations matters here because it allows you to maximize your returns while minimizing your tax burden. For most people, the first step should be the 401k, a retirement plan offered by your employer. Its killer feature is employer matching contributions, which are essentially free money. If your employer offers a match, it's vital to contribute at least enough to get the full amount. The main benefits of a 401k are: your employer literally adds money to your investments. You reduce your taxable income. Here's a simple breakdown. If you earn $90,000 a year and your company matches up to 3%, you get an extra $2,700 just for participating. Furthermore, if you put 10% of that $90,000 into your 401k, when tax season rolls around, you aren't taxed on your full salary, only on $80,000. Step 5. Automate your finances. This is the most critical stage in the entire system. For a long time, I did everything manually. I paid the bills myself, set aside savings manually, and personally managed every investment. The problem with this approach is that it constantly drains your time and mental energy. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. The more small decisions you have to make throughout the day, the worse your decision-making becomes. In the morning, we think clearly and make smart choices. But by the evening, it's easy to talk yourself into buying AirPods Max, a magic lamp, or a ridiculously expensive stapler, only to regret it later. Now, imagine if most of your financial decisions were made automatically, without you even lifting a finger. Properly set up automation removes the stress, saves time, and eliminates unnecessary anxiety. Here's the basic blueprint. First, set up direct deposit, so your paycheck goes straight into your checking account. Next, create 2 separate accounts at your bank. A checking account for daily spending. A savings account for your reserves. From your checking account, set up autopay for fixed monthly bills. Essential expenses like groceries, gas, and, yes, even that Hawaiian pizza. For non-essential categories, like dining out, movies, or clothes, set strict limits. At the end of every month, set up an automatic transfer of any remaining balance into your savings account. From there, that money works according to your current stage. Building your emergency fund. Paying down debt. Investing. Or buying back more of your time. Finally, here is an important thought to keep in mind. Even when you're doing everything right, it can sometimes feel like you're not making progress. In most cases, that's just an illusion. You simply haven't noticed the small but very real signs that you're winning.